go back to the beginning. When you guys were growing up individually, of course, what were your early creative outlets, and where did your love for performing begin?
Sure. Well, my mom is a developmental psychologist, but on the side, she would write songs about us growing up, and she ended up having like a kids group that she made. So her and her friend, like, they released like 5 different cassette tapes of like, and they were really popular at like our, synagogue. It was like a huge hit. But anytime that we would do anything, she would turn it into a song. So I just remember growing up, like, we would go to the park one day, and then like 2 days later, like there would be a song about me and my mom going to the park. So that was definitely something. And then I started writing songs, like pop songs as like an 11-year-old that were really intense. And I was just like, I remember one of the first songs I wrote was like about like getting drunk and falling in love, and my mom was like, "You're 11, you need to calm down."
Or you need to move to Broadway.
Yeah.
Either of the above.
We're going to theater.
I didn't know what it meant. But I think
Do you remember the melody?
it was like it started like, I sit here lonely on a spinning stool. Something. And all I can think about is you. It was like very dramatic.
11.
Yeah. My life is a blur. It was like really so intense. Yeah.
And what about for you?
I grew up. My family was pretty musical, like not professionally trained or anything, but like both my parents sort of played the piano and they sang. They grew up like singing in church, and music was always a big part of my family's life. And so I sort of started playing music at home as well. And then I think they just smartly found a way for me to. I think I always kind of loved theater, and then I found out there was this musical theater thing where you could like do music and perform at the same time. And so early on, I just started, I was in plays at schools and performing arts, programs, singing and acting and playing piano as well. So I was always, musically inclined and theatrically inclined, and my parents thankfully got me into a training and into an outlet for that early on. I think like in 4th grade or something. So
Sure. So you both met at University of Michigan.
Yeah.
But you started out as performers there, right?
Of course.
Yeah. No,
Didn't we all?
Yeah.
Did you not start as
Totally.
Of course.
No, but I mean, we are like the only guys who have like BFAs and can't do a time step. Like, it's like a disaster.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we went there as BFA performance musical theater majors to be actors, and thankfully that's not what we are, because
for the sake of the Broadway industry,
for the sake of all of you folks who would have to watch it. No, I think we sort of that was our path in, and then we found our path from there, which was we loved theater and we loved music, and thankfully we got the training that we got as performers really informed what we do as writers a great deal. So we're still very happy that we did that, but glad that we found our way.
Yeah, no, we became friends because we were the worst people in our ballet class. So we would hide behind each other in ballet, and we didn't remember any of the terms. Like it was like jeté, like we get pas de chat. So we didn't know when we were supposed to do these things. So we would just kind of like whisper to each other, like, okay, run a little bit, jump, and then we would just tell each other when to just do the big jumps. And that's how we became friends.
I love that.
Yeah, and then our sophomore year, we got cast in terrible roles in the musical City of Angels, and I was cast as the man with camera.
Okay.
It's slash
Clapper Boy.
Yeah,
That's 2 roles.
He had a double because
Okay.
it was the fiction.
So total stage time
film
like
world
45 seconds.
But you
maybe.
loved it.
But
Nailed it.
I loved it. And Justin was Harley Yamato, the Asian backup dancer / coroner. And I remember the first day of rehearsal, the director came out and he was like, City of Angels is really exciting. Every part in the show really matters. And he looks at me and he goes, even the man with camera.
There are no small parts.
Yeah, and it's like when they say that to you, you're like, you do not matter. So then we were like, we need to do something else. What are we gonna do? Like, because our moms are gonna come out to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and see us in this, production where I'm gonna
Spent all of us money.
Yeah,
like fly out to see.
I'm gonna take a photo on stage.
They're starring in City of Angels.
Yeah, exactly. Man with camera and coroner.
Yeah.
So,
do you have pictures of yourselves doing that?
Yes.
Somewhere.
There's a really choice one of him in our school production of Seussical. That's the really
where I play You're the
You'd
Turtle.
have to get a hold
and I'm
of
like,
that. It was great. It somehow made itself into like the Michigan Musical Theater magazine.
Yeah.
So it was just like a full like.
It's a
huge
picture of me just
shot
as a
him.
turtle, like being like.
Oh, we're getting that.
Oh,
We're so
you
getting
have
that.
It's really bad.
Did you have to wear like tape on your eyes, or what did you do?
No,
No.
they didn't. They just
There
left
was none
Harlan
of that.
Yamato, but there was no Asian aspect of it, except
Yeah.
for the fact that I was curiously named Harlan Yamato. All I did was I pushed on I would push a gurney on and off stage, and I was like,
Corner.
Here I come.
Yeah.
32
Exactly.
and blah, blah, whatever. And then I had like lines that was like, all you have to do is wait. All you have to do is wait. I was just saying the backup.
Corner,
basically.
Okay, so you decided we have to do something else.
So we have to
Maybe
do
this is what we're
something,
supposed to be
something
doing.
else. So
we can't dance, we can't
can't-
do ballet.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like,
We're not getting the big roles.
Right.
No,
Exactly.
Man with camera is not even a singing part. Oh my God. So we decided, we were like, you know what? We're gonna write our own show. We're gonna just do that. Because we had tinkered around a little bit in practice rooms and had written maybe a couple songs our freshman year just for fun. And then we're like, we're gonna write our own show. So what we did is there's a concert hall in Ann Arbor called the Carytown Concert House that people had done cool cabarets in. We were like, we're gonna rent it. We're gonna invite every single person from our department to come out and see our show. And then if we do that and we sell it out, which we did, like 99 seats, then we'll have to write a show. And so then we had to write ourselves a musical for them to come and see. And it went kind of down to the wire, and then we ended up writing this show called Edges, which we wrote in college.
It's really like a
sophomore year.
review. It was basically our, starting here, starting now. Our, it was just a review of songs that were pertinent to our lives at that time, and really didn't intend it to be anything more than that one night. But then other people found out about it at other colleges, and a lot of reasons it sort of like spread around, and a lot of college kids started doing the show.
We were really lucky because it happened in 2005, which was the same year that Facebook and YouTube were becoming really popular. And so because it was for college kids and it was written by college kids, I think it really resonated with that group of people. And so it began to spread online in this way that was really like shocking to us, but really exciting.
Because that's a crazy journey with that show too, because it's a song cycle, sort of coming of age, right?
Yeah.
20s angst and just
Yeah,
finding
20s
your
angst.
It's
It
20s
is,
angst,
though.
when you're 11, spinning out of your school, just at 20.
Exactly.
But there now has been like something like 150 worldwide productions of this.
It's fun. It's like, I think it just very much resonates with young people because I think if we wrote it now, it probably would be like, who are these old guys trying to act like they're 20 and they know it's, but we wrote it when we were 19 or 20.
Yeah.
So I think though it may be lacking in finesse and craft and sophistication,
perhaps.
it definitely had a lot of heart because it was just us
Sure.
at 2 a.m. like on my keyboard in my apartment.
Being
and
like,
being
oh, I got broken up with again.
So I think the truth of that, I think, resonated with a lot of people, and so a lot of schools and universities or student groups, community theater, young people's theater groups perform the show in America and also throughout. So it's been translated to a lot of languages
Sure.
and stuff. So it's really neat, and it's something that sort of has lived on that way, and something that we sort of encourage people to do and take some chances on it and take some liberties with it too, because that's what we did when we were.
Yeah.
And you added songs over the years too,
Yeah,
right?
we tinkered with it and we tried to improve it, and we just tried to make it a better version of what it was. But it's been really exciting.
But still I smile, I smile, and all the while I know there's something much greater in me, but I'm afraid to be who I am, who I want to become.
Collaborations are really, really special and personal. Why do you think yours works so well? Have you ever thought about that?
I think that we've been working now together for over 10 years, which seems crazy to us. It's like it's over a third of our lives now that we've been working together. I think that we're very, very different people in terms of the way that we think about things, but the fundamental thing that I think that we have in common is that we really love to dissect and analyze people and human behavior. So a lot of times just as friends, and we became friends in college, just watching our friends and be like, oh my God, why is she doing that? Why do you think she's reacting that way?
Why did he say that?
Again, kind of playing like psychologist in a way, but just really just analyzing human behavior. I think that we see the reasons why people do things in a similar way, and that really helps when you're thinking about writing or developing character, to have somebody who sees the world,
Yeah.
with that same lens.
In 2007, you won the Jonathan Larson Award.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was
What
insane.
did that mean to both of you?
And that actually was
Huge.
huge for us because
Huge.
that was right when we had been living in New York just sort of over the summer before our senior year of college, and then we decided that we had gotten So we I think thought that it was. Which it was a huge deal, but we were like, we had gotten hired to write songs for Johnny and the Sprites, which is John Tartaglia's show on the Disney Channel, and we were like, we've got to clear our schedules, we've got to and we're like, we can't be in college, we can't be doing homework, we've got this job in the Disney, you know what I mean? Cut to we wrote 4 songs for the show, you know what I mean? It wasn't it was a big deal for who we were, but it wasn't none of the other writers were stopping their lives, you know what I mean, to work on it, but we were like, how can we be I can't be doing, sociology homework. I've got to write for Johnny and the Sprites. So we had this idea where we're gonna finish college in one semester of our senior year and move to the city and get to work. We wanted to just start working, start writing more. But moving to the city is a sort of huge, crazy thing.
It's a whole other thing.
Less so because we were both from the Northeast, so we had familiarity with it. But still, it was a scary thing. We were finishing up college. But we looked at the Jonathan Larson thing, and here's the thing: it said
You cannot
apply as a student. And so we said, okay, listen, this is what we're going to do.
We're going to graduate.
We're going to graduate
early.
We're going to finish school early. This is just on the hopes that we might win the award.
We're going to cram in every possible
credit
class
hour
that we can do in one semester.
And so that way we'll get to New York and we'll be eligible for the Jonathan Larson Award.
Because we also had never, while Edges had begun, it started to get done at different universities. We never had anything in New York where anybody really, cared about what we were doing. So this to us was like, oh my god! And Rent was a huge show for us, of course. So we applied, and crazily enough, we ended up getting this award, which we got, I think, in February of 2007, which was a month after we moved to New York City. So financially, and just for the validation,
that's what allowed us to move to New York.
It's a big award.
It's a huge deal.
It's a money award.
Yeah.
Definitely, and at the time it was more so. So
Yes.
it was really, really helpful for us, and just to have that sort of validation that people in New York City and
it was just somebody's as we were just finishing school and being okay, I think we're going to move to the city and try to do this. It was somebody being you should. You know what I mean? That's what it was.
That's one of the biggest validations of that award.
Yeah, it was a real encouragement
huge.
for us.
And then in 2011, you won the Richard Rogers Award,
Yeah.
and Stephen Sondheim was one of the judges for that, right?
That was really cool.
And that was for Dogfight, right?
For Dogfight, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's obviously everyone's hero, incling ours.
I remember someone told us that he was he really,
Lynn Ahrens.
Yeah, Lynn
because she was on
Ahrens.
the.
We knew her, and she was just so you know,
He really likes the show.
He really was.
He ended up
pushing
coming.
for
He
you
ended up
guys.
coming to the show too,
Yeah,
to Dogfight.
it's
Just
like-
having Steven Sondheim come to your musical is what?
So what was that like? Have you talked to him about writing? Have you had a dinner with him or lunch?
So okay, we had one time where we got to hang out with him, but we were too nervous to really talk about writing because we didn't want to seem like those because everybody's tell us everything about writing.
So when you were writing, you know what I mean? We did not want to be those guys. We knew everyone probably does that to him, and we just felt so dorky doing that. But we totally should have because this is what we do. But we were a million people do this, so we're gonna not.
So we
talk
decided
about
to talk about
we
everything else.
had-
We're
we literally
tell us
talked
about scuba diving.
We literally talked about scuba diving. We
were
talked about everything that you could talk
Tell us
about
about
as human
18th century
beings.
games.
You know what I
It
mean?
was so
Except
weird.
for writing. We just and then
then-
we eventually got around to it a little bit. And we told him
Right.
a little bit about an idea for a show we had.
Yeah.
And he's like, I actually love that idea. And it's actually a show that we're writing now.
Yeah.
And so then we talked about it a little bit. And then obviously he knew about Dogfight and was very encouraging with that and helped us with, with a great deal with the award. But it was just funny, the one moment that we had with him that was a real, it was just literally 4 of us. Him being one of the 4.
Sure.
But we were just
But I remember
so
after we
petrified.
left, and I just ran down the street and I was like, oh my god, we didn't ask him anything.
Dogfight, I adored that musical.
Thank
Just
you.
absolutely loved it.
Nice.
I mean, I was not a huge fan of the movie because I didn't really watch it a lot, but I loved the musical. What a gorgeous job you guys did.
Thank you so much.
That was the musical that I think that audiences and critics alike both sat up and said, Lindsay Mendez is a star.
Oh man.
Did you write for her voice in mind?
We didn't write specifically for Lindsay when we were working on the show, but along with Peter Duchan, our amazing collaborator on that, we we definitely, when we were working on it at second stage, we would rewrite
That
and
was the
tailor
thing.
things
Yeah, so
specifically
I don't
for
think
her
we didn't
then.
actually write the role with any specific voice in mind. I don't think we knew what it was going to be. But once we got to second stage and Lindsay was taking on the role, much of it was,
Altered?
adjusted or
Adjusted.
catered, here and there. Not only just to her voice, but we would sit and talk with her about the character and get her input and take that into consideration as we were writing new material or altering the existing material. So she definitely became a collaborative part of our process with that role.
And I, before that, I hadn't at least known. I had only sort of known her as having this amazing, huge belt and this amazing presence. But it was so wonderful to see.
Yeah, we didn't. I think there was a whole part of her voice and everything, and not just her acting, but her voice even that we
subtlety
discovered.
and a beautiful mix, and it's just really, really lovely. And there's really very little belting that she does in Dogfight, so it's very different than what we had known.
Yeah, so I think she sort of enjoyed getting to do that.
Yes,
and
something totally different.
Yeah, something totally different, and she just was perfect.
Blank slate, blank stare. Yeah, you made her cry, why do you care? What took hold? Look at her, she looks so cold. And we go bum 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 bum. Don't know why I decided to come. Don't know why I decided to come.
First of all, there's nothing for a writer like that first time getting to hear, especially when you've got such talented people.
Like we had Annalee Ashford in that show and Derek Klena.
Yeah, no, I mean you could go the entire cast, and a lot of them friends of ours. But to be so lucky to get to work with such talented people. As writers, like we of course are so specific about what we want and how we see it, and when it doesn't. When it's not conveyed or relayed in quite the way we intend it, it's just we feel, even though it's not true, we feel like then it's not coming across. It's not. It's horrible. We're horrible. Whatever it is. So what a gift to get to work with singers we've gotten to work with on all of our shows,
and who lift up your material and make it better than you ever imagined that it could be, and add subtlety and nuance. It's awesome.
And you got to work with director Joe Mantello on this.
The best.
What was that collaboration like?
The
just
best.
Us being like, what should we do?
Honestly, he is and was like the most incredible director, and was so kind and patient, and this was our New York debut.
Right.
So beyond just being excellent at with dramaturgical advice, and beyond staging it beautifully and helping us create a beautiful show, really making sure that we appreciated
these two crazy people by the hand
and
walked us through it.
And I remember we had this moment that will stick with me forever, which was before the show opened, maybe a couple months before. He had this discussion with us, and he's like, "Guys, no matter what happens."
I think we were talking about how it's received.
Yeah, whether or not
stuff,
people will like it, critics, are the characters likable enough, all that. He's like, "Guys, it's not about that. It's really about the process of developing the show, and if we're going to have a fun time and a good time creating something, because we didn't really realize this, but the second that the curtain goes down on opening night, our jobs are kind of done. The show is frozen, and we don't go back every night, and we're not necessarily a part of the camaraderie of the cast.
If it's a hit or not, it doesn't really we don't get to we don't
savor that.
Right.
But what we do get to savor is the process of putting it all together and getting to do that with Joe, who obviously is one of the smartest guys in American theater, and one of the nicest guys and one of the most patient guys, was amazing. And we have a really, really deep love for him.
I want to get into Hit List. I was obsessed with your songs on that show.
Thank you.
Season 2, and of course, so you just had 3 sold-out shows at 54 Below, which I think sold out in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, it was crazy.
What were those nights like for you guys?
It was pretty nuts. They sold out. I don't think because of us. They sold out because it was like Jeremy Jordan.
No, it's you too. Also, it's all because of you two. Also,
No, and probably hopefully because there was a lot of real genuine love for the show, and despite it being canceled and things not going I think as planned, there was a lot of love for Smash and for Hit List, the show within the show. But that was a really neat thing. I think it was really cool that everyone was willing and excited to come back together and to perform it, that they really actually put in some effort to write a little book for the show and make it into a real musical.
And Josh Safran, who put together the show, who was the showrunner for season two.
Love him.
Yeah, he's a wonderful,
nice guy.
Such a nice guy, and such a
Jennifer,
huge,
yeah.
like, loving, devoted fan of musical theater. And so it was, like, really cool for us to see him. Like, I was so happy that he got to sort of see his show that, I mean, he put that show together. He's the one who said, hey, you write this song, I want to put them together.
And
so he got to see it on stage.
There are obviously such limitations for what you're able to show on a television show to really give the entire plot of what this musical
Right.
is. So I think that a lot, when they had to cut things or when they had to figure out how to make it work within the structure of a 1-hour drama on NBC, I think that people were like, well, what is Hit List about? But the show actually does have a real plot and kind of works. And it was exciting for all of the multiple writers to be able to see all of our songs work in context and see that, actually what we all contributed to is a real musical.
So who brought you in? Was it Josh?
Josh and Neil Marin and Craig Zaden and it was amazing.
Here they tell you you're going to write for Smash. What were you thinking?
Well, before that even, they took us out to where was it? To Joe Allen to talk about what it's like to be a young writer in the city.
They were like looking for like sort of
Plot and background.
Yeah, exactly.
The two new characters were sort of these scrappy writers. So they took us out and we gave them stories about our collaboration or things that happened. And at the end we really wanted them to ask us.
We thought this might lead to
maybe to
like,
write.
we're looking for writers.
So at the end of the meeting, they're like, okay, thank you so much, and we're like,
okay,
thank you so much. So,
yeah.
like, thank you so
Thanks
much.
a lot.
We're like, oh, okay, thank you so much. But so nothing
we were
happened.
like waiting for it and didn't
Putting your
happen.
coats on really
Yeah,
slow.
right,
Is there anything else you'd like to say to us?
Exactly.
Thank
and they
you
were just like,
so
okay,
much.
we're gonna walk down 46th Street. Bye, guys.
Thanks
We're like, okay.
so much. Yeah, so whatever. But then a couple, like 2 months later or something, they called and they were like, hey, we want you to, write
Well,
this-
they said we want you to try. I mean, they basically said, we're looking for some writers. Throw us this. They said, they in the most general terms, like, here's what the show is about. Like, why don't you just write a song for us that would be like the style of the show? And we were like, okay, what should it be about? And it was they didn't really tell us anything. Of what
they didn't really know
They
yet,
didn't know at that point, so they
They
were
throw
like,
it to you.
yeah, they were
Right.
they were just like, just write a song. We were like, okay.
Okay.
So we wrote a song to like give an example of what we would write, and it was a song called "Caught in the Storm." And then, so they wrote,
Wow.
so then we didn't hear anything, and then like 2 weeks later, we got an email from Josh that was like,
It's
"Hey
going
guys,
in
just wanted to let you know,
episode 2."
congratulations." We were like, "Wait, we didn't
What?
actually write it." He's like, "Nope, it's going to the show. It'll be in episode 2."
Yeah,
And we're like,
and we got to
So
write.
that was your spec song,
Yeah.
which is a hit song.
"Yeah,
It's cool. It's cool.
I'm caught in a storm, I'm caught in the rain, I'm caught in the rush that hides this pain. I'm ready to drown, but it's coming down, but I feel so alive. Just let me go, just walk away. If you love someone, you never let them stay. Caught in the storm.
All right, songwriting teams. Who've influenced you? Who do you admire the most?
I think we already talked about Lynn Aaron
and Stephen.
Flaherty, and they especially because they, not only just because we're great admirers of their work, but the second year that we lived in New York City, we were part of the Dramatists Guild Fellowship Program. And that was basically, what that meant was, every week we got to go and sit with Lynn and Steve, and they
Play
would
them
just
songs.
and play them songs, or like hear them talk about how to write. I mean, that was what it
amazing.
was.
It was a year-long program, and there were 10 people in the class. Half of them were
Playwrights.
music writers, half of them were playwrights. And yeah, we got to have that amazing experience, and they helped us with dogfight stuff,
Yeah.
pretty funny. And I remember working on that with them, and it was huge.
So they were directly, they directly affected us.
And we also love how they can write for so many different kinds of worlds, but still retain their own sort of voice and style. And that's something that we really.
Well, that's what you've done. I was going to
Well,
say.
that's
yeah.
I mean, if
We
we ever
aspire
do
to.
anything like that, it's because we're just trying to basically copy, Aaron's and Flaherty. That's,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's what we love
In the
about
best
this.
way.
In the
Yeah.
best way.
Yeah.
That we love so much because you could always listen to a song and it's them, and they're not just copycatting or just just writing a pastiche song. There's always parts of them that come through in the song, and yet they adapt their sound to
whatever
each
world
whether it's
they're
geographic or
Yeah.
it's a
But you know it's them.
period,
Yeah.
but you know it's them. And
Once
so,
on the silent direct.
right.
It's
So
Susical, it's-
so I think we deeply admire and respect that, and it's something that we hope to do in our own work. So
then
they've been huge influences for
I
us.
think Jeff Marks and Bobby Lopez were huge for us when we first got to the city. They really took us under their wing, especially Jeff, who was an incredible mentor to us and allowed us to hang out at Avenue Q, Las Vegas, when they were mounting that and see how a show came together, which was invaluable and helped us sort of get on our feet here.
Yeah.
And Steven Schwartz has been an amazing mentor to us too. Justin ended up slipping him a CD once and never thinking that he would actually, listen
I
to it
love
or,
it.
just be
So
like,
awkward.
if you ever want to listen to it and here's my
I
email
was
address.
like 21, and I was like, hey.
And then 6 months later, he wrote us an email when we were juniors in college, a 12-page email outlining every single song from the CD, saying what was working, what was not, how could we improve this, how could, what are we doing well. So, we have been, we felt so sort of blessed that the theatrical writing community is so nurturing of younger people and bringing them up in the world and teaching them about this art form.
Talk about some of the projects. What can you tell us about the projects you're working on now?
So we're working on a new original musical.
We started, the idea for it we had in college, our
Yeah.
senior year of college, and we kept sort of...
It was the one thing that we did talk to Steven Sondheim
And he
about.
said it was a good idea, so it really,
So,
we were
I
like,
mean, it
okay,
must be,
we got to make it happen.
Yeah.
So
and-
what can you tell us about
Well,
that?
we can tell you, we're working with...
It stays here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, of
we're
course.
working with a playwright, Stephen Levinson, who's
Yeah.
fantastic, and he is writing on
He now is a
Masters
writer
of
on
Sex
Masters
right
of
now,
Sex.
and has had a bunch of shows in New York. And Michael Greif is directing it, and it's a totally original show. We just had a work session about it with it yesterday.
Playing some
and
new songs.
Playing
and
some new
stuff.
songs.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a very contemporary story. It's a story about a family and a young and like a high school aged person. We don't have like the condensed pithy
sure.
Elevator pitch
elevator
yet.
pitch for it, and so we'll get in trouble because we'll be like, it's about this, and
Yeah.
they'll be like, it's
We'll
not,
be like,
it's not about that.
That's all we talked about in our work session.
But we'll have to rewrite the opening number 6 times
exactly.
anyway when we figure it out.
But it's a very contemporary, I think a little bit dark and an
Interesting.
edgy story. But it's an original story, and it's something that we've really drawn on from experiences that we've had and
it's-
things we've noticed,
it's
observed. you know.
Definitely, we had a really great conversation once with James Lapine, who was like, "What are you writing that only you could write? That is about from your generation that no one else can sort of say or speak to." And
So I think while we're still in our 20s, we're trying to write this.
Sure, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
The clock's ticking. So, and it's about sort of
Our generation.
Our generation.
yeah,
But I love the team you're working with on this.
It's-
Yeah,
Ben, you have
exciting.
another musical you're working with?
we're working
Yeah.
on with the amazing Rick Ellis,
Sure.
who is the
Jersey
smartest,
Boys, Peter Starcatcher.
but just like one of the
Yeah.
smartest people
Yes.
that we've ever met in our lives.
I find myself just sitting and not speaking, and I just
You
want
just
to
wanna
listen to
soak
him talk.
in
You know what I mean?
all of
If
his
you let him,
wisdom.
if you just don't get in the way, he'll just keep telling you brilliant things. So you just sort of listen. And
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
What is that about? Can you tell us anything? Or
It's based on a documentary about teenage magicians.
Yeah.
fascinating.
And a group of them that all come together once a year. I can't remember if it's actually been. I don't know. We don't know if it's
Yeah.
been announced or not or something. But it's
Well, now it is.
No,
It just stays
but
here at Broadway World.
Of course.
Yeah, but we're excited, and we've been meeting with Rick and developing that, and we're really excited about
Yeah.
where that'll go.
Okay, my final question is for you guys.
Yeah.
What is the best bit of advice that you've each been given that you live by?
I think this was specific about one thing, but I think it carries over to a lot of things. I think when we first moved to New York City, we had written this song cycle, Edges, and I think we sort of thought that was what got us in the door at places, or that's whatever. But I think and then we had a bunch of concerts and stuff, and I think that we sort of felt like that was going to be what led to some success, or led to a next project, or led to the next thing that happened. And so I think we became a little obsessed with being like, oh, here's a show, Edges, here's a CD, here's a CD, here's a CD, or come to our concert, we're doing a concert. And it got to a point where some people, I remember we talked about this with Andrew Lippo once, we talked about this with some of our mentors at MTI, that it was sort of like, okay, that's so great that you guys have that, like, write a show, write a musical, and focus on that. And that was specific in that it was about like not trying to continue to milk this thing and whatever and focus on that, but it was also helpful in terms of I think like sometimes it's easy to get obsessed with or to get distracted by like the showy parts of
In the
being a
instant
writer,
validation of
the
putting
instant-
a
yeah,
video
put up
on
a
YouTube.
concert, put up a
and-
YouTube video, or do an interview. Whatever it is, there's things that you start to feel like, oh, this is my, I'm doing this, and I think like just the advice at that time was specific, but I think it carries over, which is to like keep going back to just working
Doing
hard.
the work.
Yeah.
Keep going back to working hard and make opportunities for yourself. If you get approached to do something or you get a project out of one project, if it leads to the next one, that's great. But we have this. In our occupation, we can make something happen ourselves. If we have an idea for a show, and it's good enough, and we get good enough people surrounding it, that can happen. So we don't have to sit and wait for someone to call us and say, "Hey, we want you guys." I think we were thinking that someone would call us and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
oh, we liked your CD. We want you to write this big Broadway show." And that didn't happen right away. So the advice was,
Do the work.
you guys can make it happen. You have the ability.
And I think that we were part of a generation that, as we were saying, like does really sometimes you put up a YouTube video or you put up something and you
No, I
get
mean,
you
it's
get
easy
that
to get the
instant
instant
gratification.
feeling, but really putting in the time and putting in the work to create something that you're really proud of. I think we came out of the last concert that we had done before last year was in 2008, and then we just wrote shows, and then we came out of that with shows that we were really proud of, and now we get to do fun things like this.
Yeah.
The best. Have an incredible holiday
Thank
season,
you,
and
too.
here's to an incredible 2014.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
Love you guys.